Good evening and welcome to episode 57. You are trapped in history with me, your host, Robbie Malcolmson. This episode is entitled The Birth of Modern Thought, the Scientific Revolution. Before the 1500s, Europe's understanding of the world was predicated on tradition and faith. Knowledge came from ancient authorities like Plato, Aristotle, and Ptolemy, and was filtered through the church's interpretation of divine truth. The cosmos, space, the heavens, so to speak, was imagined as a fixed, orderly hierarchy with Earth at the center and the heavens beyond, ruled by perfection and purpose. For centuries, this worldview offered comfort, a universe designed by God, where every star and soul had its place. Yet beneath that order, questions simmered. Curiosity, observation, and quiet doubt were beginning to stir a transformation that would shake the very foundations of how humans sought truth. The scientific revolution didn't appear out of thin air. It grew from the soil of the Renaissance. Humanists had rediscovered classical text, artists had mastered perspective, and explorers had stretched the known world's borders. As Europe's intellectuals re-examined ancient works, they noticed contradictions, namely between Aristotle and the Bible, between what was written and what they saw. This rebirth of knowledge during the Italian and Northern Renaissance sparked the courage to ask dangerous questions. What if the old masters were wrong? What if truth could be discovered through experimentation, not inherited? It was in this climate of rebirth and rediscovery that the first scientists, then called natural philosophers, began their daring experiments. To begin with, Nicholas Copernicus, a Polish cleric and mathematician, was among the first to challenge the ancient order. In 1543, his book, On the Revolutions of the Heavenly Spheres, proposed something radical: that the Earth moved around the sun, not the other way around. To modern ears, it sounds quite simple, but to his world and to his critics, it was not just wrong, but heretical. It displaced humanity from the cosmic center and implied that our senses and even centuries of authority could deceive us. Though Copernicus's heliocentric model was cautious and mathematical, it ignited a revolution of thought. Perhaps truth lay not in tradition, but in observation and experimentation. Decades later, Galileo turned Copernicus's theory into visual proof. With his telescope, he saw the moon's craters, Jupiter's moons, and the phases of Venus. This was evidence that shattered the idea of perfect celestial spheres. Galileo's discoveries forced Europe to confront an uncomfortable reality. The heavens were not divine perfection, but a vast physical realm governed by the same natural laws as Earth. His famous clash with the Catholic Church, culminating in his trial and house arrest, became a symbol of a deeper struggle: faith versus reason, revelation versus evidence, and obedience versus curiosity. In addition to Copernicus and Galileo, Johannes Kepler refined the Copernican model with mathematics, showing that the planets move in ellipses, not circles but ovals. A subtle but profound correction that proved the cosmos was a system of precision, not divine geometry. Then came Isaac Newton, who wrote Principia Mathematica in 1687, which unified the heavens and earth under a single framework of laws. Gravity and motion explained everything from falling apples to orbiting moons. In Newton's universe, God was no longer a puppeteer constantly intervening. He was the divine clockmaker who had designed a machine so perfect that it ran by natural law. Beyond discoveries, what truly defined the scientific revolution was method. Thinkers like Francis Bacon and René Descartes proposed that knowledge should come from systematic observation, experimentation, and reason, not authority or superstition. Bacon urged humanity to put nature to question, so to speak, testing theories through evidence. Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am," rooting certainty not in tradition, but in rational thought itself. Together, they gave Europe a new epistemology. Truth could be discovered through inquiry, doubt, and logic. Tools that would shape every discipline that followed from this point on. This was not just new, this was transcendental. However, wrestling with tradition by questioning nature came with conflict. To question the heavens was to question God's order. The church, deeply entwined with Aristotle's worldview, saw these discoveries as challenge to divine truth. Galileo's trial exemplified this tension, not as science versus religion in a modern sense, but as a struggle over authority. Who decides what is true, scripture or observation? The scientific revolution revealed a growing fracture in European thought, one that would later widen during the Enlightenment into debates about political and moral order in society. This revolution didn't just reimagine the universe, it redefined humanity's place within it. Once believed to be the center of creation, humans now found themselves on a spinning planet in an infinite cosmos. The earth was no longer a stage for a divine drama, but one of countless worlds. This humbling realization forced philosophers, theologians, and artists alike to reconsider what it meant to be human. If the universe ran by natural law, could society, politics, and morality also be understood through reason and order rather than divine will? Indeed, that question became the spark for the next great intellectual movement, the Enlightenment. Inspired by the success of science, thinkers like John Locke, Voltaire, Rousseau, Montesquieu, Wollstonecraft began to apply the same rational principles to society. If Newton could uncover natural laws governing motion, perhaps there were natural laws governing human rights, government, and justice. The scientific spirit of inquiry, questioning, skepticism, and experimentation became the engine for reform, revolution, and progress in every realm of life. By the 18th century, Europe had been transformed. The scientific revolution had not merely changed what people knew, it changed how they knew. It replaced faith in ancient authority with faith in the human mind's power to observe, reason, and discover. It humbled humanity's place in the cosmos while elevating its intellectual capacity. And in doing so, it became the foundation of the modern world. A world where knowledge is earned, not inherited, and where asking bold questions remains the most revolutionary act of all. Now, as usual, I want to close this short episode tonight, an introduction to the scientific revolution, with 3 philosophical questions for thought to leave you, the listener, with more questions to ask, to wrestle with, as we proceed further into the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, and throughout the rest of Unit 4. My first question of the night: if knowledge can change our understanding of the universe, can it also change our understanding of ourselves? Number 2, how do we balance faith, tradition, and reason when each claims to hold the truth? Number 3, if the scientific revolution taught us to question everything, what, if anything, should remain unquestioned? Thank you all for investing your time into this episode, and hopefully you enjoyed this short narrative introduction into the scientific revolution. As always, continue to keep questioning the past in order to understand the present and be contagious.